Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Tonight is Air Fryer Advanced Night 2. I'm Kirsten, and you are in the right place. Um, like a little poll just to see what's going on over the past week that we'll talk about later. And as usual, I will give you the housekeeping disclaimer that if something happens with our internet, then give us about 15 minutes to try and restart everything. Otherwise, I will send you the link to when I taught this class a year ago. And I'll knock wood that that doesn't happen. We are not going to get the winds that Milton is putting on Florida right now, so we should be okay. We'll see. I may have jinxed ourselves. Tonight, last week was breakfast week, where we covered breakfast hash and frittata and donut holes and donut holes and rolls with holes and breakfast foods of that nature. And this week is going to be dinner and dessert week with a little bit of appetizers thrown in. And the subtitle for it could actually be a spice week, um, because we're going to be doing a lot of different spices in the recipes that I'm going to demonstrate tonight. I'm going to start off by demonstrating the tandoori salmon and potatoes with a little bit of extra vegetables just because I have them. And then while that is cooking, I'll demonstrate the kielbasa, pierogi, and veggies meal in this air fryer. And then while that's cooking, we veer off into other directions with a couple of bonus recipes, and I'll talk you through the technique of another recipe. And then about halfway through, we'll take a break. And when we come back, mini pumpkin pies and some spice nuts. And if we have time, I'm going to want to talk a little bit of air fryer appetizers, if I can. Okay. All right. Well, let me get started by sliding all this tray of spices over here and moving over to potatoes. So for this first recipe, tandoori salmon and potatoes, it calls for fingerling potatoes. And that is a potato that is long and skinny, and but not as skinny as your finger. Skinny like the fleshy part of the thumb, that kind of skinny. And when I went to shop for the potatoes, I could not find them. I ended up going with some little potatoes, and I chose the ones that were more oval shaped versus round shaped. So if you can't find fingerling potatoes, go ahead and use creamer size potatoes or new potatoes if you can't find those. And you're going to end up with Yukon Gold or red potatoes. Know that it would probably be best if you cut them in half or quarters. Like this, I can't even get my thumb and finger around this. I would probably cut this in half long ways and then cut it in half again, each half in half. So I had 4 long spears, which would more approximate the size of a fingerling potato. This one, I would probably just cut in half because I can about get my fingers around that one. So, little note on potatoes, and know that when you cut the potatoes in half, they're going to be a little more likely to stick to the tray of the air fryer. Um, they'll be tossed in oil, so that'll help you. But if you can find fingerling potatoes or creamer potatoes so you don't have to cut them, so you don't have to worry about them sticking to the tray, I would do that. That's my recommendation. There's plenty of reasons and times for breakfast potatoes, but this. So you need to give the potatoes a little bit of a head start before you cook the salmon. And I did that before class started. So, but I'm going to show you how you do it just while we're tossing the end. Take your potatoes, and there's about a pound of fingerling potatoes, a little bit of olive oil, and I'm going to toss my bowl because I have a big bowl. I can do this. Get them coated with oil, and then a little sprinkle of salt. and a couple of grinds of pepper. And actually, while I'm thinking about it, I want to put some delicate squash in with this. Look at all those tops. And everybody's covered with oil. Okay. I'm going to move this over to my air fryer tray. And since the potatoes have had a head start, I'm going to go ahead and put the squash on the perimeter because I know that my air fryer cooks faster on the edges. So I'll put the parts that haven't been cooked yet, the delicata squash, cut into little rings. Set that over there and set you aside. And we're going to season up the oil for the salmon. And that needs another bit of oil. Vegetable oil is what the recipe calls for. I'm using the last of this bottle of olive oil just so I can be done with it. There we go. Because I hate to waste food. So we're going to season the oil with a whole host of spices. And once the oil is seasoned, it will be time to mix in the salmon and get that coated in the paste. That's a little more. And I need a glove for my salmon coating. All right. Before I put on my glove, I'm going to preheat my air fryer to 375. Conveniently, it was already there since I was just cooking the potatoes. Okay. So to season this oil, I am going to use turmeric, cumin, ginger, and paprika. Cumin, ginger, and paprika. All right, got everybody I need. I love turmeric in so many things. And I've been drinking a turmeric chai, which is neat because it comes through in the tea bag. So you see the turmeric. Teaspoon of ground turmeric for you. And cumin. Cumin is one of the most versatile spices. I go through a ton of it as you have it in so many different cuisines. So many different ways. We go back over there. Ginger. Ginger's one. Ground ginger I don't usually use. And you need a whole piece. It's not something it's about my only use for ground ginger. Usually I'm using a ginger paste. But Ben Mims, the man who wrote Air Fry Every Day, the book where I'm getting this recipe, he uses a wide variety of spices. And the point of using a dried ground spice is to make a good paste that will stick to the half teaspoon, that will stick to the salmon. So there's a method to his madness. Great cookbook. I got it from my library and recommend checking out cookbooks from your library. All right, you go over there. I'm gonna stir this up with a fork. Just till all the spices are coated in the oil. All the oil is coated in the spices. There we go. Okay, to the seasoned oil, I'm going to add the salmon. And I have made this recipe in a lot of different ways to include buying a piece of salmon and cutting it into fillets and taking extra extra odds and ends salmon left over from other meals that we've had. But I've hit upon the buying frozen fillets of wild caught salmon because they're already portioned exactly how I want them with the skin and everything. And then I just have to thaw what I need to do. And that makes me happy. All right, so I've coated both sides of the salmon with the spice rub. And now I'm gonna put, if you look at this, it's thinner, just the way the muscles are on the fish. It's thinner on one side. Because my air fryer cooks more on the outside, I'm gonna put the thicker part towards the outside on the tray. But I'm gonna lay it skin side up right on top of the potatoes. Same thing here. I've got a thicker part and a thinner part. I'm gonna put the thicker part towards the outside and lay it right on top of the potatoes. All right, I don't know what I do with you. But now that this is preheated, I'm gonna return this to the air fryer. Turn the potatoes, put these other ones in. And we're gonna cook this for 5 to 8 minutes. I'll probably just say 6 to call it good. Boop, boop. All right, I'm good at 7. Okay, well, that is cooking. I would like to get our next recipe started. Let me go in there. Good. Get our, gonna stand over the basset hound and get the next recipe started. This is going to be an all-in-one pot meal that is a from the Skinny Taste author of Gina Homopoulos. So she's got Skinny Taste, all sorts of different Skinny Taste books, including an air fryer book. And I've really enjoyed a lot of the recipes that she has made, that I've made from her cookbooks. They'll add vegetables and they'll be bright and fresh and really creative. And I think the really creative part of this recipe is the fact that you're taking a frozen pierogi and kind of rinsing it with water and then sticking it in the air fryer. It seems crazy, but it totally works. So I love that. Um, I'm going to preheat the air fryer. And this time, this one is preheating to 400. Conveniently, we're there. And I'm going to want to have some vegetables and some meat that I'm going to mix together, boop and boop, in a bowl. Bowl to be determined in a minute. Not this bowl, because I got to rinse this bowl. This bowl, that's what I was looking for. Um, so I'm gonna season the olive oil a little bit. So we'll start with my splash of olive oil. And then I need chili powder and garlic powder and salt and an onion and peppers and broccoli and kielbasa or sausages or summer sausage. And then the pierogies are over there still frozen. Okay, let's get seasoning on the oil. A teaspoon of chili powder. As always, because you are cooking this and can make it your own. If you don't want a full teaspoon, if you don't want all the spice of a full teaspoon of chili powder, leave it out or use half. It's your meal, make it your way. If it were up to me, I would only ever eat pizza with artichoke tapenade from Trader Joe's and anchovies and sauteed mushrooms on it with fontina cheese, because that's the best pizza in the world, in my opinion. That should be a poll question. Favorite pizza toppings. I'll think about that one. All right. And you heat garlic powder, half teaspoon, and then half teaspoon kosher salt. Or really the salt that you have on hand. Unless you got that frou-frou highfalutin sea salt flakes. Don't those you measure with sprinkling more than anything else. That's good. And a fork to mix it. So the seasonings are easily distributed. Okay. Now I'm going to do a little bit of chopping before I put everybody into the seasoned oil. First thing I'm going to chop is an onion. We talked about chopping an onion last week, yes? Good. Okay. So I've already cut off the tip. I've already cut it in half towards the root. And just to get a dice, I'm going to make a couple of horizontal slices, 90-degree turn, 90-degree turn, a couple more vertical slices, and then turn back 90 degrees to finish it off. These will be kind of medium size chunk. We'll put some of you in and save some of you. Yeah, that'll do. A little bit of you, a little bit of me. And then I'm going to slice up the kielbasa, the sausage, the summer sausage, whatever it is. So wanting. This is fully cooked, but we're going to give it a little crisping. So slice it on a bias. And you could be using a turkey kielbasa. You could be using a thing that I can't think of right now. All right. Save you two out for another purpose. Toss these in. And then I've got some more delicata squash because I figured why not? I'd add a little more color. I've got these cute little peppers that I've sliced in half and removed the seeds from. But if you had regular bell peppers, like I showed you last week, long strips of those would also be good. And then broccoli florets. And I will toss this all about to get everybody coated with the oil. It's a very filling recipe. Much greater than the sum of its parts, I think. And once everybody is coated with this seasoned oil, toss them in the air fryer basket. All right. And that is going to cook for 4 minutes. And then while that's cooking, I'm going to prepare the pierogi. I'll set you over here by rinsing it underneath a colander just to get it a little bit wet so it'll steam. Let me grab some of the pierogi. There we are. And give them a rinse just to knock off any ice crystals and to get them fully wet. So when we pop them in through the air fryer, they will be ready to steam. It's crazy, just crazy. Set you aside. Okay. That was 2 minutes because that started at 17. So I have 2 more minutes and then I'll pop those in. All right. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and go over the poll results so I can see what's going on. Um, how did you use your air fryer this past week? 75% of you have French fries. High five, high five. Nobody reheated pizza? I did. Um, nobody made a recipe on the handout. Neither did I. Trying a new recipe, 50% of you. Yay! And making an old favorite, 50% of you. And no one is complicated. Yay, always good. What is your favorite winter squash? 50% of you, acorn squash. 25% of you, butternut or buttercup. 25% of you, it's complicated. There's a wide variety of winter squashes, which is why I kind of listed a lot of those over there. I'm always a fan of butternut or buttercup squash, but I grew some delicata this year, and that's always kind of fun because it's different and you can eat the skin. And when I was over at the Apple House, we were there on Friday last week. They had a kabocha squash, which also has edible skin. So last year I got a black futsu from the Apple House and tried that. This year I've got a kabocha and I'm trying that. But yeah, I understand the vegetable's not for everyone. Yeah, we'll see. All right, that was one more thing. What's new for you? Answer in the chat. You'll never tell. You do what you need to do. I can tell you that new for me is that I worked a whole heck of a lot over the past week. I was cheese platter queen at Chow Girls for several days, which is kind of crazy. Okay, it has been 4 minutes. So I'm going to shake around this melange, this medley of vegetables and meat. Give that a shake. And then I'm going to put the pierogies on top of it. And then we'll put it back in to cook a little bit longer. So got them on top and I will just slide them back in for another 8 to 11 minutes. So I've got 13. Stop that at 2. Okay, give that a shake in a minute. Now I'm going to make a sauce that I think would go very nicely with the tandoori salmon and potatoes. It's a yogurt sauce. It's very cooling, but it's also not horribly seasoned. Seasoning is salt, pepper, and garlic. So it's pretty basic in the seasoning, but it's also quite yummy. Great for potatoes, great for, you go there, you go there. We have it with the ham at Easter. We have it really whenever we're roasting potatoes for something or want just a little something else to eat. The potato sauce works. And it's, Mark will drop a link in the chat, but it's basically about a half a cup or so of yogurt and about a quarter cup or a couple of tablespoons, depending on what you feel like, of mayonnaise, a little bit of garlic, a little bit of salt and pepper, stir it up, let it hang out. It's so easy. My sister-in-law is this cool Danish woman, and I was visiting once, and she just whipped it up, just a little. Well, it's just a potato sauce. She used creme fraiche because Copenhagen, and I don't use creme fraiche. You could use sour cream. You could use creme fraiche. You could use sour cream, but I end up using yogurt because we have a lot of plain yogurt in our house. So I always have the right thing. And then I add about to that half cup and a couple tablespoons up to a quarter cup. Add about a teaspoon of garlic. That could be garlic paste, that could be really finely minced cloves of garlic, or that could be garlic powder. I would probably do a half teaspoon of garlic powder, or just shake. See how that goes. A little sprinkle of salt and some grinds of pepper. All right, let me give this a stir. And you've got potato sauce. Easy peasy. All right, let's check and see how salmon turned out. You are tender. You're good. Look at it. So yeah, I'm gonna put you on the bottom. No, I'll leave that there. So now I've got a piece of salmon, nice crispy sin. And you go over here. And we'll add some potatoes to that. And a little bit of delicate squash. You could also be adding broccoli. You could be adding cauliflower. Cauliflower would be good with that. Adding kind of the veggies that are appealing to you the most, and whatever's in season. Slices of acorn squash, that would work. All right, slide you out of the way. Yeah. And then a little bit of yogurt sauce on the side. So, recipe number 1, done. Salmon, tandoori salmon and potatoes for 2. This is gluten-free, by the way. If you're avoiding gluten, and I will zhuzh everything up at the end with some pretty things. Put the potatoes over here. Yeah. Okay. Now it's going to be time for me to shake and take a look at what's happening with the pierogies. I'd put them in with the thicker part towards the outside, just to get that done properly. But let's see how it turned out. How it's going, more importantly. Nice. We've got a little bit of brown spots on the pierogies. And I give them a little shake just to redistribute. And then I'll pop them back in for, I think, 3 more minutes. Gets me down to around where the timer was looking at. Okay. So I got 2 more things I want to do before I switch gears. And the next thing I want to do is talk about, since we're on main dishes, I want to talk about the wild rice and chicken thighs, because there's a technique to it, and I'm not demonstrating it tonight, but I took pictures so that I could go ahead and show you. So Mark will drop the pictures in the chat, and then I will talk them through how I go. When I flip that over, look at that. Okay. So the easiest thing that I do when I'm when I'm pounding meat is I wrap it up in a couple layers of plastic wrap. You can pound it with a skillet, you can pound it with a meat thermometer tenderizer, you can pound it with the side of a can or a flat wooden spoon, really. But if you have it wrapped with a couple of layers of plastic, that makes it just easier and neater and everything to pound. And you want to pound so that your chicken is at an even thickness before you put in the filling. And then after you put in the filling, this is in weird order. This is in completely different order. So look at the second recipe, the second picture that shows the meat wrapped up. And that is after it's been pounded, you're putting in the, okay, thank you, my Liba. Um, you put it in, wrap it up, pound it. After it's flat, unwrap it, put your filling in, and then to secure it after you roll it up, go ahead and use toothpicks like I have shown, just because, and you can see it, Robert Barker. There was Robert Barker pre-leg amputation back in the day. Secure it with toothpicks, that'll hold it together, and cook it to toothpick side down. And then while it cooks in the air fryer, the meat will come together and you can remove the toothpicks before you serve it. Okay, all works. Thank you. What do I think about paper air fryer liners? Good question. I think it depends on what it is that I'm cooking. Like last week with the donut holes, I absolutely wanted to use a bit of parchment paper. I don't, I use parchment paper because I'm using parchment paper every single Friday night when I'm making my pizza. So I already have it, so it's nothing special for me to purchase and have on stock. Um, so I've seen that the air fryer liners that both have little tiny holes in them to allow some air to circulate, as well as the kind that's just a solid sheet of paper. And I am kind of cheap, I admit, I am kind of cheap. I prefer just a piece of parchment paper instead of buying a bespoke thing because I can use the parchment paper for a lot of other uses, and the ones with the little tiny holes in it really only fit in the air fryer. So um, I do like them. It depends on the recipe. So something that's going to drip through with like a batter or a dough that's not going to stay on the top, I absolutely want to use um, a piece of parchment paper just so it doesn't stick and it doesn't fall through the holes in my air fryer. Um, Other things that I'll use though, in lieu of paper, I'll also use a baking tray because that's a pretty easy way to keep things from falling through. Um, if I want the air to be circulating around, which I do for things like vegetables, for things like, oh, hey, I should probably stop you. Let's take a look at you. For things like oh yeah. For things like vegetables, for example, like this, I wouldn't need a paper liner for this because any oil that's going to drip through this is is fine by my book. It's just fine. So let me set you right here because we're not going to use that. Um, but I do prefer something reusable. It's just a little more sustainable. So instead of a liner, sometimes I will use this to keep drippy things, wet things from falling through. Other times I will use the parchment. But I don't usually buy an air fryer specific thing only because I've already got parchment paper. If I didn't have any parchment paper, I would be buying something that was made for the shape of the air fryer that I had. Because there are times when you just need it and want it, and that's a good thing to have. So, good question. All right, do you go back over here? And these pierogies, I'm going to put you in a bowl. These pierogies and peppers and broccoli and delicata squash and sausage, um, they She gets served with a little bit of mustard. I need another fork or spoon. She gets served with a little bit of mustard. I also like to have them with a little bit of sauerkraut. I think that goes very nicely with this. Get everything on top. Now, if you were to do a full recipe for 4 people, you'd be halfway there, throw everything in, cook it for a little bit, rinse off some more pierogies, put them in, keep on going, shake as necessary. All right. Slide you in and hit cancel to turn you off. Good. 1, 2. You go over there. All right, now I need to do one more thing before our break, and that is get started on the pumpkin pies because the pumpkin pie batter needs to rest for 10 minutes. So I'm going to show you how to do that now, and then it'll rest over the break. And I need this. You could make this in a blender if you wanted to, but I'm making it in using my immersion blender, and I've got it in a 4-cup measuring cup just because I'll be pouring it. This is one of those recipes that I adore because it uses a whole can of pumpkin and it uses a whole can of evaporated milk and a whole egg. Not that you have a lot of recipes that use half eggs, but I really don't like it when a recipe calls for half a cup of pumpkin or something, because then you're left with, the rest of the can. So I do appreciate that this uses the whole thing. What I'm going to do is dump everything in this thing and then mix it up, and then we'll pour it in. But before I do that, talking about pumpkin has reminded me about this really yummy Thai pumpkin soup that I want to tell you about. It's not a pressure cooker, or it's not an air fryer recipe. We make it on the stove top. That's a link for Soup Addict's Thai pumpkin soup. And it's just totally delicious and uses one batch of soup, uses half a jar of Thai red curry paste, 1 whole can of pumpkin, 1 whole can of coconut milk. Pretend I'm holding that right here. And then vegetable broth, if you want to keep it vegan, chicken broth, if it doesn't matter to you. You'll need some garlic, ginger, lemongrass paste, which is a um, long-storing herb paste seasoning that that can live in your refrigerator for a while. And I think salt and pepper. Yeah. And then the garnishes for this soup could be chopped nuts, it could be sliced peppers, a little cilantro, some sunflower seeds, some pepitas, any kind of really just anything you can think of, the wide variety of different things, whatever you happen to have handy makes a good garnish for the soup. But it's creamy, and it also uses some onion. But it's creamy, and I like to use it like a sipping soup. So I'll mix up a pot on the stove, or I'll mix it up in my pressure cooker, or I'll just, however I mix it up, heat it up. I often will ladle some in a mug and just sip on it. It's a lovely appetizer. And because these things live in pumpkin and unopened jars of Thai red curry powder paste, they can live in your cabinet for a while. If you happen to have an unexpected vegan who's coming over and you need to flesh out a menu, have this recipe in your back pocket because it's good and it's easy and it's quick, and I love it. So there's a plug for that. But pumpkin pie, because it makes me think of Thanksgiving when I think of other ways you can enjoy pumpkin. That would be a poll question. Have you never had a pumpkin spice latte? Um, Felicia, you are right. You are right, Felicia. Feeding leftover pumpkin to your dogs. That's a great idea. When Robert came back from surgery, they suggested that we add pumpkin to his food to, I think, in part bulk it up. I think it was in part to bulk it up so that I remember giving, yeah. Well, he was a good eater, except for when he was in his initial recovery period post amputation. All right. I have just put in brown sugar, um, 3/8 of a cup, because I've cut this recipe in half for reasons that will be clear in a little while. And an egg. I'm going to, no, I'm not. I'm not going to tempt fate. I just know that the one time I crack an egg directly into something live on camera is going to be the time that it shatters and turns into a pile of shells. And I don't want to do that. So I peeled 55 eggs yesterday after I boiled them, which was a small amount of deviled eggs for events. Okay. Evaporated milk, pumpkin puree, eggs, brown sugar, 1.5 tablespoons of flour. Cut in half is, oh, I just did this. Okay. You go, you go, you go, you. And then half of you. Half of you is you. All right. If you're keeping this gluten-free, a gluten-free flour, all-purpose flour blend of your choice would be a great addition. And then ice space. Hard boiling your eggs in the air fryer. What temperature do you use, and what temperature, or and how much time do you use, Felicia? Oh, that's a great idea, Courtney. Add your pumpkin to your pancake batter. Yeah, pancake batter, muffin batter, waffle batter. That's a great idea. And I need salt. Okay. I've done poached eggs in the air fryer, but I really like to hard boiled my eggs in my pressure cooker, even though I hard boiled dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of eggs at Cowgirl. So it is, why am I using this? Um, it's not hard for me, is what I'm trying to say. It's not that big of a deal for me to hard boil eggs anymore. It was a bigger deal, but I've gotten over it. All right, you go here. Oh, I was putting you in here. Thanks. The magical location. All right, so we're gonna mix this up with an immersion blender. But if you've got a blender, use that. I'll come back over here. And I'm going to give it a mix and then stop and scrape and give it another mix. All right. Give this a scrape. And really the purpose is to mix in the egg with everything and allow the flour to hydrate for a bit because it's going to cook super fast. One more. Right. Now we're going to let this sit for 10 minutes to do its thing. I'm going to wash the two air fryers so that I can come back and have more recipes to come. So we'll play the music. When the music is on, I'm not talking, you're not missing anything. And then when the music stops in 3 to 5 minutes, then I'll meet you back here. Okay, I'm back and I've got things washed. Um, while this while this pumpkin pie is sitting over here, there we go. I want to move on to another recipe, and that one is going to be some spiced nuts. And I'm going to flip over so I got the right page. And I even printed everything. There we go. Printed everything single side. Okay. Um, this is going to be a good recipe for having in your back pocket if you want a little snacky poo, if you want a little something something. It's fun to have on hand. It'll keep in a covered container for a week or two, so you can make them often if you like. And it's a little bit sweet and a little bit spicy. So I like them because you know, they're maybe they're slightly different every time I make them. I don't know, but they're kind of enjoyable to have on hand. I've made these with almonds, I've made them with pecans, I've made them with walnuts, I've made them with a blend of nuts. It has all worked. Tonight I'm making them with walnuts, and I went ahead and measured out all the spices so that I didn't get myself distracted. So just like before, we're going to season the oil, and I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil. See this? And then added my seasonings. And this is brown sugar, chopped fresh rosemary, fresh thyme. It might be oregano, but I think it's thyme. I don't remember where I planted everything. And it's either kind of slightly large thyme or it's slightly small oregano, but you could use dried. And if you're going to use dried, I would use half the amount. So half a teaspoon of dried versus fresh. Um, Also, salt, ground coriander, onion powder, black pepper, and garlic pepper. And when I say garlic pepper, I mean garlic powder. So let me dump that in to season my oil with a fork. And as you can see, it's pretty thick, which is good. This is going to cling onto the walnuts. And I'm sorry, Molly. Excuse me, dogs in the way. I'm gonna use a gloved hand to kind of rub this all in just because I want to make sure that I get it all coated, all the little nooks and the crannies. But you could use a spatula if you are not as hands-on. Just keep on stirring with the spatula to make sure that you get a chance to really coat all of the nuts, because that helps the spices to stick. All right. Now I'm gonna put this into a little air fryer, just throw it straight in the basket. You could put this on a tray if you wanted to. This, because it is such a dry thing, there's not really a lot dripping off of it. But I don't think I would need to use a paper liner for this. Okay, you're coated. And just toss you in, spread you out in an even layer. And that's going to go in for a total of 5 to 6 minutes. I'll give them a shake, check where I am on the temperature. All right, you go there. I'm writing this down, 300 degrees for 9 to 10. Or Jamie, Jamie eggs are the way to go. Thank you. All right, that's going. And then one more diversion I want to do is when I teach my there we go. When I do live cooking demonstrations, like I was in Lakeville on Saturday at the Lakeville Lions event. I don't know. I often will do a crispy polenta round with air fryered vegetables. And can you grab a tube of polenta out of the fridge, please? Thank you. This is polenta. You'll find it in the grocery store in the produce section where the chilled salad dressings will be located, or you'll find it in the pasta aisle, somewhere on the pasta aisle. Usually not eye level, usually lower. That'll be enough. But this in and of itself, as it is, it's shelf stable. You could actually find it when you're in the pasta aisle. It doesn't have to be refrigerated. Grocery stores just refrigerate for whatever reason. This is a gluten-free cornmeal mush, is what it is. Cornmeal and water, some spices. I was reading out the ingredients to one of the folks that had stopped by my table and saying the main allergen that they have listed is celery seed, because there is no gluten, because there is no dairy, because there are no alliums, because there is no soy, because there is no wheat. The best they can come up with is, oh, this contains, beware, this contains celery seed. So I've taken the polenta and I've cut it into some rounds, and I'm gonna pop this up to 400. I cut it in some rounds. I've sprinkled it, tossed it with a little bit of oil, just a tiny little bit of oil. And I'm going to sprinkle with a little pinch of salt after I lay it out on a rack here. And then I'm going to throw this in the air fryer to get crispy. Ooh, I'm going to throw you in the air fryer at the same time so you can get crispy, and we'll talk about you. All right, putting you on the top so you go. Let you go for a little while. All right, well, these things are working and cooking and doing their own little cooking thing. Let us talk about, been 10 minutes. So it's going to be time to remix this pudding, or the pudding, pumpkin pie filling, and then I will pour it into ramekins. The recipe will make 6 7-ounce ramekins. I have 6-ounce ramekins, so that actually makes 8. And I taught a whole class, and I'll be teaching again in December, January, February, an instant pot desserts class. But one of them was making chocolate lava cakes in a pressure cooker and use ramekins for them. And so I had this whole conversation with some of my students about ramekins, and I can tell you that that I have a lot of ramekins up here. Um, they're out of the shot, so I'm going to move some down. I've got little ones that are only 4 to 5 ounces. I have bigger ones that go up to 8 ounces. I have ceramic ones, I have glass ones, I have metal ones. I have a lot of ramekins, and they are really useful to have because you never know when you need just a little bit of something um, for to add to, either a small serving just for you, or you want to put something in them, just a little bit of something when you're serving. But they're a useful thing to find on your Buy Nothing group, to find at thrift stores, to find at, well, I guess Goodwill is a thrift store. They're a useful thing because people will buy them and then not use them and then get rid of them. And then you can take them and say, hey, hey, I get ramekins. There you go. So now I have my ramekin set up. I'll do one more blending of this. All right. And then I will scrape off as much as I can because I like pumpkin pie. We want all the pumpkin pie goodness in here that we can possibly get. And now you will see the method to my madness of pouring this into, or blending this in a measuring cup, because haha, it's a lot easier to pour. If you blend this in a blender, of course, it's also going to be equally easy to pour. Even everybody out. Almost done. All right. Now we'll pop these in the air fryer. We'll get these ready to pop in the air fryer. I'm not sure who goes next, but I know I want a plate. I want a plate. Beautiful. Okay. Go back in here. Keep crisping. So I took the ends of that kielbasa and put them in a little bit of a shoe shape so they're laying flat. And earlier today, I cubed up I took some cubed sweet potato, tossed it with a little bit of olive oil, salt, and pepper, and I stuck it in the air fryer at 375 until it was done. How long did that take, you ask? Well, it depends, I answer. And that is my cue to say, I've got an air fryer vegetable cheat sheet. And so for the folks who requested a leftover cheat sheet last week, I hope you got it. Let me know if you didn't, and I will resend. But I have an air fry vegetable cheat sheet, and gotta give credit where credit is due. This is from Ben Mims, the same guy who did the tandoori salmon and the spiced cocktail nuts recipes. Took it straight out of his. I was trying to to make an even more comprehensive air fryer vegetable cheat sheet, gathering times and temperatures from a variety of different sources and trying to synthesize into a giant thing. And it was just perfect is the enemy of the good. And this is really good. So I just want to tell you that you should go ahead and if you want to know how long would it take to air fry, you know, zucchini, rutabaga, garlic. I need to roast these garlics, by the way. Carrots, cauliflower. This will give you a good ballpark figure of how to prep the vegetable, whether it's florets or slices, leave it whole, and then what temperature and what time range. It's going to depend, of course, on how big you're cutting your things, what the growing season was, how long they've been stored since they were harvested, so you know what their moisture content is. That will all change, but it's a good ballpark figure. You give me your email, I give you the air fry sheet. But that's a diversion from, oops, what I want to show you, which is another appetizer that you could make. Take some roasted sweet potato that took, I don't know, oh, oh, you're good. Yeah, we'll let you sit there for a minute. Take some roasted sweet potato and a little bit of squashage, a little bit of sausage, and combine them together for a little appetizer. 2, 3, or 4. And if you have it like a little foot, it'll stand up, look pretty. I get these skewers at United Noodle in Woodbury or in Minneapolis. Yep. All right. You're crispy and you're good. And your nuts are done. So let's take you, slide you over here, slide you over here. Take a look at the nuts. A nice golden color. And they smell. So let me dump these into the bowl. Let them finish cooling. And know that you can store these in the cupboard container and they will last for a good long while. You go back over here. All right, you're off. You're still cooking. A little bit more on you. All right, I'm gonna finish up with the pumpkin pie right now and tell you that the pumpkin pie is gonna cook in the air fryer for 35 minutes at 275 degrees. So if you're gonna cook it in a drawer style, I would recommend having a foil sling, like I talked about last week with the frittata, a foil sling for each ramekin. So you're not trying to juggle two different, or just like a big piece of foil to lift up the whole thing. If you're doing it in a drawer style, if you're using a shelf style, you're just going to slide the shelf in, slide the shelf out. Pretty easy. Now, to finish these pumpkin pies, though, go over there. When they first come out, they're going to be all puffed up, pretty, and then they're going to deflate a little bit as they cool, like the frittata, and that's okay. You still have ended up with single servings of pumpkin pies that you can just, enjoy at your leisure. Where am I? Yeah. Okay. You can put some graham cracker crumbs or crumble on top of this. If you've got those little Bischoff cookies or graham cracker sticks, that would be good alongside this. I am going to try, because I made some earlier today. I made some apple butter muffin tops. And I'm just going to crumble up a little bit of that in case you want to crumble with this reasonably non-crumbly recipe. A little bit of that just for the crust factor, but I don't think people eat pumpkin pie for the crust, personally. And then a bit of whipped cream. And boom. Your pumpkin pies can sit in the fridge for several days. Add the whipped cream when you're ready to serve, if you like. And then, yeah, they're not likely to be several days in the fridge just because we like pumpkin pie. Oh, I think we have some crisping edges. So I'm going to slide our pumpkin pies around the edge. I think I'm done chopping. So I'll remove the knife. Okay, oh, there you are. You go up there and you go over here. I'm going to use you. All right, I have my crispy polenta. So now the pumpkin pies can go in and the temperature can go down to 275 and the time will go to 35 minutes. And that is why I did half the recipe in advance so I could show you because nobody wants to wait 35 minutes. There we go. And the time is going to go up. What I adore about something where I know that the time and the temperature are a specific amount, unlike air frying vegetables, is I can just set it and then I can go off on my merry way, do my own thing. All right. So these polenta rounds, they're crispy. And that was 8 minutes at 400 tops. So what I'm going to do is I am going to work around the dog that is right here in my way. I'm going to take some herbed cheese. This is rondelay, also Boursin is another herbed cheese. I'm going to put some on there. And this is going to be a glue for different kinds of vegetables to make an appetizer. You could use this, you could use this with roasted broccoli. I'll throw some of that on. You could use that with some sweet potatoes. Throw one of those, a couple of those on. Cauliflower, bell peppers, asparagus. I like this because it's a good year-round appetizer. And it's gluten-free and it's easy to make when you're last minute serving. If you've prepped your polenta ahead of time, just got to heat it up and roast your vegetables, and there you go. And we'll just put the little cheese on you. If you wanted to do a vegan version of this, dairy-free version of this, I recommend using hummus as a glue, because hummus makes a great glue and a vegetarian version. So I'm going to grab a little bit of hummus, slide you over there. I often like to use Za'atar seasoning with hummus. So I'm going to sprinkle a little Za'atar on that. There it is. I hope I've used all the vegetables, all the spices that I had out. Za'atar seasoning, hummus. We'll do a little bit of sweet potato on a couple of these, and then I'll grab some broccoli out of the other one. Whoops, sorry, Molly. A little bit of broccoli. Okay. So I've got Gonna zhuzh this up for you because the next class I'm teaching is a festive appetizers and boards class, combining my love for appetizers along with my desire to keep food neat and tasty. So I'm going to tell you, add a little bit of fresh herbs on your plate. We eat with our eyes, and that is a way to make your food just a little prettier. No fresh herbs on the pumpkin pies. No. Our pierogies. Little herbs on those. And then spice nuts. And because I've got some rosemary in my spice nuts, I'm going to add some rosemary on top of those. All right, so tonight we covered tandoori salmon and potatoes, where you're cooking the potatoes in a seasoned olive oil. Cook them ahead of time a little bit because they take a little bit longer than the salmon. And then make a lot of seasonings for your salmon. Coat the piece of skin on salmon with the olive oil, the seasoned olive oil. Put it skin side up on top of the potatoes. Back in the air fryer, go for a really flavorful, seasoned, complete meal. And then if you want a little dressing on the side, a little potato sauce that's plain yogurt and mayonnaise and garlic, salt, and pepper. A little cooling next complement to the salmon. And then we moved on to an all-in-one meal of kielbasa, pierogies, and peppers and broccoli and delicata squash for this, and onion. So a bowl full of vegetables with some pierogies that cooked from frozen, a little rinse with water to get them started thawing, and then they steamed the rest of the way in the air fryer. And then we went on to some spice nuts, sweet and savory spices mixed together and then tossed together with walnuts for some spice nuts. And I'm diverting over here for a couple of different kinds of appetizers. One is taking rounds of polenta, brushing them with a little bit of olive oil and crisping them in the air fryer until crispy. And then using either cheese or hummus as the glue to hold on some seasoned vegetables, roasted vegetables, or even fresh vegetables for a little bite-sized appetizer you could enjoy year round. And then finally, I have a little bit of kielbasa sausage cut flat and skewered with some sweet potato for another little appetizer for you. All right, and then we're going to finish the whole thing off with some mini pumpkin pies with a little bit of sweet whipped cream and some apple crumble, just apple butter muffin top crumble, just because I had it. I also have for you a Basque style cheesecake recipe, and that video will go in the chat. I just got it uploaded right before I came for class. That is in there, and that is a great recipe. It's a very rustic recipe. It uses some parchment paper too, but 5 ingredients: cream cheese, eggs, sugar, salt, and heavy cream, and you have this tasty cheesecake. I cooked it I tried both a 6-inch pan and a 7-inch pan. Personally prefer the 7-inch pan because it made a more slightly shallower and firmer cheesecake in the same amount of time, and I didn't have to cover it. So I kind of do appreciate that one a little bit more. And then I've got Schnitzel. Yeah, I also have a bonus extra recipe video for the pork schnitzel recipe in here. So check those two out. and send me your email, or send me your email if you want the air fryer veggie cheat sheet. And my next class, November 12th, is festive appetizers and boards. And then the final class that I'm teaching this year is monthly meal planning, which is how to plan an entire month worth of meals, which is a great thing to do your mental load once and then just have to plug in what you had already decided and then make that. It's kind of brilliant. And my friend Megan taught me that, and she is teaching again. So that's happening the first Saturday in December. Okay. As always, if you have any other questions, my email is at the bottom of the handout. You shoot me a question, I would be happy to answer it. And happy cooking.